Hi, Anne.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing okay. Good to see you.
You as well. Thanks for coming on. Much appreciated.
I'm excited to be here since I haven't gotten to talk to you before. So
Yeah.
look
Your
forward
office
to.
isn't that bad, by the way, unless you
Well,
did clean it.
I this side I flipped the books upright because this is where I store the books for my author
Yeah,
store,
yeah.
and so I flipped them all upright and made it look a little better, and cleaned up some of the junk. So
Well,
I'm
your office
guilty.
does look awesome. There's a
Oh,
lot of
thank you.
interesting stuff going on there.
It's a wonderful place to write. So I love this room. This is so
It's
nice.
yeah, it's bright and colorful, like your books.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So before I get started, I must share
Hmm.
this with you. So I read your bio that Mickey sent me and had one of those laugh out loud moments. You
Yeah.
know, um, like I can share this, this one line. When she's not dabbling in fiction, she's arm wrestling with her two kids, attempting to seduce her husband and arguing with her sassy cats.
Yes. And all true. Our cats are so sassy as well. So they give us.
Yeah.
They're wonderful, but they are very bossy.
How many do you have?
Three at the moment, and that's what we want to stick with for now. We've gone up to four a couple times, but we do
Yeah,
live
yeah.
in an area with a lot of wildlife. So if they get outside, doesn't always go well. But the others coming, the ones we have are like three is the youngest and eight is the oldest, so they're pretty seasoned now.
And whereabout are you based exactly?
I'm in Arizona, up in the mountains,
Arizona.
so not down in the heat of the desert. I can't handle that much heat. I don't know how people do it. Yeah, we're up where we get four seasons, and we get some snow, and then we get a little too hot in the summer, but it's really nice up here.
It's like how I'm comparing South Africa at the moment with regards to the weather. It's like global warming on steroids.
Oh, really?
You
What
know?
what is it
Yeah.
like? What is it like
Like
there?
now we're in our summer months, but we have
Mhm.
rain and we have cold, hence I got this hoodie on. But it's not supposed to be that way. So it
Oh,
just changes, yeah, randomly. We normally expect rain like around September,
uh-huh.
September, October. But here we are, you know, full rain, cloudy, cold, miserable.
Not at
I guess
all.
it has its
No.
advantages now and again, but
Yeah.
it's so unexpected.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying about the four seasons, but now we're getting like four seasons in one day.
Yep.
So you are a USA Today best-selling author. Your genres are quite diverse.
Mhm.
If anyone had to ask me, you are creating like a franchise of the future, an American franchise of the future. And why I say this, I'm not comparing your work to any other work out there, but when I look at it, I'm thinking of Scream, Woodsboro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like with your storyline, it's around a town, Deadwood.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, yeah. So we're gonna get into that. But first up, maybe share like a bit of background history about yourself, how your creative process started, when did it start, and how did it come about?
So, I didn't really want to do this for a living. It wasn't, something. I know a lot of authors have dreams of this from the very start, and I didn't. I really started writing in my mid 20s. It was in part because I read a lot, or I used to read a lot before started writing. Um, So I kept coming across books that I didn't quite love the ending. It's not that the book was bad. I just wanted more. So I started writing, I thought to myself, well, if you want something more, write a different ending, and it's kind of started there. And then it was like, well, write your own story. So I began, working on writing my own books. And the first one I wrote by hand on notebook paper. It was about 60,000 words, and I still have it, but no one will ever see that book. I keep it because it was my proof that I could do it, that I could write from the beginning to the end. And it was kind of the jumping off point. After that, I joined some writing groups, and chapters. I was trying to write romance back then, and I joined a Romance of Writers of America chapter, and they were wonderful. They were so helpful, and so many classes and workshops that taught me a lot about writing. But as I kept continuing to try to find an agent back, this was in the late 90s, I kept running into walls because I couldn't quite stick with just the romance genre. I kept
Yeah.
throwing bodies into it, or something else, and I liked monsters. So um, it just kind of kept developing, and I kind of hit it just right when ebooks started to be a thing and Amazon started to, push out their different programs. And I just happened to be there at the start of it, which was really fortunate because I was able to get in when Kindle was new, not brand new, but newer. I think I was kind of the second wave. The first wave paved the way, all those authors. And then here
Yeah.
came
Yeah. Yeah.
that just were able to, expand it. And I was able to quickly build a fan base, and grow back in the early, like 2011. So it was just really fortunate timing. And I had spent 10, 15 years by then trying to get better at the craft. So I was able to put a book out, and not be learning at the craft so much along the way, although we're always learning, and improving our writing. So that was kind of the start of it. And the first book, I had written several others. Nearly Departed in Deadwood, the first in the Deadwood series, was my first book that went out. And it did really well out of the gate. It had a couple of national awards already, so it kind of paved the way. And then I went and grabbed some books that I'd written in like 2005 and 6 and kind of polished them up, and that was the Jackrabbit series. And I put those books out. And then a couple years later, I put out the first in the Dig Site series, which I was one of the first books I think it was book 2 or 3 that I'd written, but I went back and fixed it up. And so that's kind of how it all began. And now I was counting up this morning, 38 books are published at this point. And that seems like a lot, but my contemporaries that I spend time with online and at conferences, they're up near 100. So I feel so slow, compared to those guys. But my problem is I write long books. And I
Yeah.
say
Yeah. Yeah.
because if I wrote shorter books, I could move faster and have more books out there quicker, but I write these 120,000 word books. And my brain is like, I've tried to write shorter, but my brain is like, no, no, no. This is how long it's going to take to tell this story. So I just have to go with what I do.
Yeah, I think first up, you'd actually be surprised how many authors I've had on the show that started just like you. Like they never intend to become an author. You know, they either
Right.
started in their 20s or they started in their early 30s, and then it just evolved. And then they were like, sure, I'm actually good at this. The book's actually selling. People love my work. Let me continue. I've just found my passion. Like there's no set age where you can actually find your passion in life.
Right,
You know,
right. I agree. I was working early on as a technical writer for a banking software company. So we did all the teller banking, the computer, the software, and I was a tech writer. And I would sit in the company meetings where they were talking about financials and all that stuff and company direction. And my brain would be in fiction land because the passion grew so strong and so fast, and it was realizing this is what I want to do. And I would look around the meeting a lot of times and think, how can all of you guys be so focused on banking software? Because I can't, I was having trouble sometimes with retention for what they were saying because my brain was over in building this fiction career already. And so it was nice when after, how many years was I there? I think I was there 13 years, and then I was able to quit and go full time, and just do this for a living. And that was great. It was very scary at the time because I had 2 kids. My husband was a stay-at-home father at that time, and that was a big jump, going from a
yeah.
regular paycheck to here we go, let's try this. And if there's no going back. If you fall down, you got to pick yourself up and, go again or go find a job, So it was exciting and scary, and it still is, every time the market shifts, audiobooks are big, audiobooks are no longer big, this is new, use AI to market, do ads, do
Mhm.
this. It's just a constant changing game. And you just, have to keep trying different things to see where you're successful as it goes.
100%. It is scary to take that jump, but like you have to follow that inner voice.
Right.
You have to go for it, or you're never going to know, and you're going to wake up, 30, 40 years from now full of regrets. Like,
Right.
why didn't I? Because
Right.
the brain, by nature will automatically think about, what can go wrong? How will I afford to pay the mortgage or pay the rent or pay for the car? You know, but
Right.
things can also go right for you.
That's
You
true.
know,
That's
that
true.
voice
And
it's spiritual, so you have to go for it.
right. And this is year 12 of full-time author, and this is what my husband and I do. This is the world my kids know as a, growing into this, growing up. And my husband co-writes the Deadwood Undertaker series. We would do that together, and then behind the scenes my husband does formatting, uploading the covers, so many things for the other series too. So it's really a family business, and in some way that's wonderful. In other ways, the kids are just are at the breakfast table, they say, are we talking about real people or are we talking about characters right now? So it's been a real experience for them growing up in this life.
So when you started off, when you talk about the second wave within Amazon, so were you like before or after algorithm became a thing and blew up?
Before, I mean, it was just kind of there, but for example, I ran my Deadwood series, the first 2 books, I put it in Kindle Unlimited, and they still did make you go just Kindle Unlimited for 90 days. They had you in that program where you couldn't be elsewhere. But what was different was you would put a book free and, for a day and then come off it, and your sales would just keep going like this, even though you were no longer, or it was only free for this long, but afterward, the it would just go up. And now it seems like you go like this, it's just
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
down. And so back when I would run, like the first time I ran Nearly Departed in Deadwood ebook free, within one day, the first day, I had given away over 4,000 copies. And I thought, oh, what did I just do? That just seems like, oh my, I think I just tanked us, out of the gate. But then everybody, more people bought it. There were reviews coming in, and the marketing, in Amazon, it just kept pushing it higher. Now it seems like I hear authors talk about you run free with a BookBub ad and you just go boop, boop, and nothing else sells because in part, I think people's Kindles are so full of books. We have
yeah,
so
yeah.
many ebooks to read. I don't know about you, but I think I have 50 books on there that I got when they were free, but I just sits there and I think someday I'm going to read those,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I can't get to them. So, I feel fortunate to have been in there when Kindle Unlimited was little bit different, and running free was a different thing. And then I have BookBub ads. I was also at the beginning of BookBub when you'd run a BookBub ad, and boy, howdy, you would be flying high for a week off that one ad, And again, now it's kind of up and down, and it
yeah, yeah,
costs so much more. When I was doing them early on, it wasn't, the cost for the ad was about a fourth of what you would make in sales. But now they've raised their prices, and so you're happy if you even out now. So it's just a different. I was able to be in there, I feel like in the golden age a little bit when things, and there were 800,000 books on Kindle, not 8 million, so your
yeah, yeah.
competition was less. So it was a wonderful way to start out, and it really helped me get going. And now it's just a whole different game, when you're out there marketing. And I'll have newer authors ask me, what do you think? Should I try this, or how should I do this? And I really, unfortunately, don't have an answer, because now I'm at a different I
Yeah.
have, these books and I have a different situation than they do. And I don't know how the new, how you start out new. So I'm not really much help in that way, but I try to help with like relationship marketing and how to, talk to people and talk to readers and get to know them, and do marketing that way more.
Yeah. It reminds me of, when Facebook first launched. Like, if you had 5,000 friends on Facebook and you posted something, all 5,000 friends would actually see what you
Right?
posted. Now,
Yes,
if you post it, only 10% is going to see what your post is. But if you're willing to invest in an ad, we're going to get it to those 5,000 people and more.
exactly.
The
Exactly. Yeah,
game has changed.
I was there, I think I joined Facebook in 2008. So all that stuff was wonderful back then, and now, it's just a different story. But there's, what's uplifting, I think, is there's always new routes in that are being made. Take the TikTok book talk following, that blew up. There's just different things that come and go. So it's kind of, at least it's not stagnant, where you had this one chance and you fail, you're out. You just
Yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah.
keep switching around. And I'm still doing that, and other contemporaries that I know are still doing that. We constantly change our marketing game and try different things, you know?
Yeah, you have to. I
Mhm.
mean, on what you were saying about, up and coming independent creators, like I focus on them a lot. And the thing is, what worked for you or what worked for me, is not necessarily going to work for the next person. You have to find what
Right.
works for you. It's like when a creative, whether it be an author, whether it be a musician, says, Kino, which social media platform do you think is going to work best for you? And I'm like, you need to try it all and you need to
Yes.
evaluate that for yourself. Like
Right.
I try all platforms, like technology is always evolving.
Right.
Information is all over the show. So I get what you're saying, in this era of being a creative, there's not so much red tape. You can be your own publisher now, you can be your own editor now. You can use AI, but use it responsibly.
Right.
But you have to find out what marketing tactics are going to work for you.
Right.
So try it all.
Once you enjoy it, because you have to be able to come back again and again and keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel sometimes like we're mad scientists, and we're just combining things. And,
Yeah.
sometimes it blows up in your face, and other times it's like it turns to gold and you didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely, there's so many options out there, so many different ways to reach people. It's wonderful, and yet it's overwhelming and
Yeah.
sometimes tiring and terrifying and all that put together. So I often talk about enjoy the journey you're on. And I know that's old and cliche. Yes, you're supposed to enjoy the journey, but truly everybody's, journey has different pitfalls and different, things to celebrate. And if you're too busy watching the person next to you and wishing you had their journey, then you're going to miss out on all the wonderful things that happen in yours, along the way.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You have to be the first you, not the second somebody, you
Yeah,
know?
I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. That's great.
Like in this case, I also use the 80-20 rule, whereas in don't focus 80% of your time on other creators. Use them as mentors, use them as guides, but 80% of the time should be focused on you. 20% focus on what other people are doing and see how you can fit that into your career. And
Right.
another thing is, like, I feel it's so important to know what's your end goal. Have a
Yes.
vision. What is your end goal? My end goal, my career is not going to be your end goal, and that's going to lay down, the blueprint for how you should go about it.
Right. Right. Which
Yeah.
paths to take as you come to different forks in the road. Figure that out and go that way. There was a time when I was investing heavily in audiobooks, and other authors were investing in foreign languages. Neither were doing great at the time. Audiobooks went big and still are pretty decent. And now foreign language books are going bigger. So it just goes to show you just don't know where it's going to go,
Yeah.
but you go with your gut, try something. And if it fails, pick yourself back up and try something else. Just keep going.
100%. That's yeah, it's a very strong message you put out there. Like too many people give up, a month, 2 months later, but this is long term.
Oh,
And
yes.
you have to be willing to accept setbacks and failures, take risks, learn from those risks, take another risk if you have to. That is the nature of the game now.
Right.
Um,
Right.
when you were talking about your Kindle library, I could relate, like, okay, I prefer physical books, versus Kindle, unless I want like a brand new book. Of course, I'm going the Kindle route. But here near where I stay, there's a secondhand bookshop. And I mean, I get quality books there. It's at a good
Mm.
price. But like you walk into the shop and I'll be like, okay, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, I'm taking this. And it just goes on the shelf. So I
Yes.
can relate to that. I'm going to get to you one day. I'm not sure when, but I'm going to get to you one day.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
When we moved 10 years ago, actually 11, we moved here from up by Seattle in the state of Washington. And we had to move all our stuff, and I had to go through all my print books from, childhood on up that I brought, because I didn't want to move it all. That's a lot to move. We're going to pare down, move, and then, rebuild. And I had to go through all my books and analyze, okay, I read it once. Will I ever read it again? Really? Will you ever read it again? And then weigh that, and then if no, well, then it went away. But even it was like,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
liked it, but you're not going to read it again. So yes, I do have, you can't see, the books behind me are the books that are our books that we sell. And then
Yeah,
over to this side, I have a big bookshelf all along here that are the books that are my books that I collected, and I read and stuff. So, I like you, I love the books. And interestingly, my daughter, who's 18, she wants everything physical. I keep trying to buy her Kindle books of stuff, and she's like, no, unless you're going to get me the physical book, I don't want a Kindle book. I want to be able to hold it in my hand and read it. And
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
funny because I'm old enough to have seen the circle come back around. I held books and read them,
Yeah,
and then I enjoyed Kindle, and I still like being able to travel with, 50 books or 100 books on my Kindle and have my choice. But she's like, no, I'm going to pick one book for the trip, and I'm happy with that. So it's kind of fun to see the new young generation coming in and going, I want print books, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's a different feeling, to just hold the books and, you chilling out with a cup of coffee, whatever your preferred beverage is. And,
Right.
it's a different feeling. Like with Kindle, my attention span is not so long.
Mm,
Like I'll read, and like 15, 20 minutes later, okay, no, I've had enough, you
right.
know. But with a physical book, you can just go on and on and on. It's a different feeling. But I mean, 100%, the newer generation that they are still, finding it much more comfortable with a physical is a wow. It's a wow.
I also think, one of the things I love about a physical book. Okay, here's one, for example. So I love that you can see, this is how far I'm into the book. This is how far I have to go. But with a
Yeah.
Kindle, if I can't see what percentage I'm at in the story, drives me crazy. It's like, where
Yeah.
am I? Am I in the middle of this book, or do I have like a long ways to go, or am I at the end? Should I be building up for the ending? So I do, if I don't have that percentage on, and for some reason, sometimes my Kindle percentage won't show where I'm at, it drives me nuts. So I get that physical book, but I did tell my daughter, you obviously haven't fell asleep enough times and had a book drop on your face because you were doing this and been woken like that. So you still like that physical book feeling, but me,
Yeah.
I like to be able to just fall asleep, maybe it's off to the side and it's just this little thing that doesn't break my nose or anything.
Yeah. And what's your take on audiobooks out of curiosity? Do you think it's effective?
I love audiobooks as an author, because I love how it brings the story from my head to life in a different way, because I'm not reading it. So it's going to be a little bit different than what was in my head, of course, because I have a narrator who's putting her thoughts or his thoughts into how the story should sound. And so I think it's really interesting to hear, and sometimes cringy. Oh, sometimes I'm cringing as I listen, just because it's kind of weird. It's like a pair of shoes that aren't quite right. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. The expression comes out a little different, maybe. So as an author, it's wonderful, but it's sometimes a little, this is uncomfortable, but overall good, right? As a listener, I don't listen to a lot of books, and it's not because I have a problem listening. I'm busy. This is a full-time job, so, and it'll take every bit of time I can give it. It's quicker for me to pick up a book and read. Plus, I do better soaking stuff up through my eyes
Yes,
versus
yeah.
some people are better through their ears. And I know there's technical terms for that, but I'm going to say it that way. So I think for those who are auditory, it's a wonderful thing because they get to soak it up in this way that's so comfortable for their brain to, comprehend and learn from. So I think that can be really beneficial. I don't like the middlemen, how as an author, the middlemen companies take such a huge percentage. You'll ask any author that is, especially indies that have gone through some of the big companies, and for every dollar we get 10 cents. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's such a big thing. It's such a chunk that, and we don't have a lot of control over that at this point. We're kind of at the mercy of the distributors, of course. So I don't love that part. And I'm hoping as time goes on, that too will change because more and more author unions and groups are fighting some of the stuff that goes on. Like when Audible had the deal where you could get the book on audio and then turn it in within 30 days and get your money back. And then really what that was the authors had the money taken away from us. That's no good. We can't keep going if we're not making any money on a book, so, but they fought that. And I think it's down to like, I don't know. I was thinking it was like 7 or 10 days now they have to turn it in. And I think maybe if you've listened to some, you can't do it, where before you could have listened to the whole thing and turned it back in and got your money. So, pros and cons. It was good for the consumer. It was not so good for the, authors and those involved on the
Yeah,
book.
yeah. 100%. I mean, the music industry works the same.
Right.
But that's why it's like up to us just to keep, educating indie artists out there or indie creators out there. Because, I mean, the feeling of like uploading your first book or uploading your first track, and you're so excited. Wow, my book is
Yes.
on Amazon, my track is on Spotify. But now you don't know the business end of it. And then when you look at the, earnings 3-4 months from now, you're like, what?
Yeah. Wait
That's
a
what is like a
second.
wake-up call, and then you're like, okay, I need to really now invest in learning about the business end of this business.
Right.
Or
One of
there's
the
going to
things
be a loss.
when I was early on in this, I had formed a small publishing company with a partner. And so for the first few years, I was I was one of the co-owners. And the wonderful thing about that was I learned so much about the business from the publisher end. And that was a real eye opener. So when I left that small publisher, because I wanted to focus on writing and just being an author, I went into being an author with the experience of being a publisher. So it really helped me when acting as a distributor for my print books, because I understood how this works with stores. You don't just go in and they take your book and sell it and they give you a bunch of money. That's not how it works with actual brick and mortar stores. So it was a real helpful boost because I had to learn the business,
Yeah.
and not just be an author. I had to also be a publisher. So that was very helpful.
So are you like fully like published yourself? It's all
Yeah,
you?
well, no, I mean, the range of answers just circled in my head. You could see on my face. So I am an indie author. However, some of my audiobooks, like the Deadwood mystery series, I am a hybrid. Well, I'm with a publisher, um, Blackstone Publishing. They hire the narrator, they do all the production work, they put it out, they sell it. I get royalties, sales and all that off those from that point. So I just published with a publisher the first book, Nearly Departed, as a hardback, and I chose to go with an established publisher instead of doing it myself because I know that they can reach library conventions and sales, booksellers conventions that as an indie I won't. And it opens different doors for me if I go with a publisher in some ways. So I'm hybrid. I'm
Yeah.
both independent, but I'm not. And then I act as my own distributor in a lot of areas, like the Western South Dakota state area where the actual town of Deadwood is. I have a storage unit. I have a salesperson. We distribute books to different retailers, and we act as a distributor as well as I'm the author. So I've kind of got a lot of things going on at the same time. And sometimes I'm like pulling out my hair thinking, what am I
Yeah.
doing? But it's fun. It's part of the fun of having this business, and being an entrepreneur.
Like each project is different and you're going about it in a different way. I get that.
Right,
It
right.
makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So let's jump into the Deadwood series, into Violet, and as you label it, past, present, fiction, non-fiction. I'm intrigued about that, especially that fiction, non-fiction. What
Right.
exactly is going on there? So how did the series come along? What
So
motivated it?
So I spent a lot of time growing up in Western South Dakota in the Deadwood area. And Deadwood is a big historical town. I don't know if some people know Deadwood from the HBO miniseries Deadwood, about 15 years ago now. It really is a town, and it's very historic. They have museums. They have a lot of the old, buildings are from the late 1800s that they've kept up with the Historical Society. There's a lot of old houses, a lot of ghosts everywhere. Everything's haunted. If you talk to different people, well, this building's haunted. Well, this building's
Yeah,
haunted.
yeah.
They've had a lot of, notorious times because of mining gold brings, some really colorful characters to a place. Back in the 1870s and 80s, it was all about the gold. And so there were lots of, problems as well as good things. So has a wonderful history. And my mother and stepfather moved there when I was just 7th grade. And I spent so much time there going back and forth between where my father lived in a different state. But I grew up a lot in the Deadwood area and spent a lot of time hanging out on, the street benches, waiting while my parents were working or doing something. And that was back in the time when you could just sit there on a street bench and watch people and enjoy what was going on. So that fast forward another, 10 years after high school and being there and just starting to dabble in writing a little bit more and deciding, write what was a thing people will tell you. And I knew a lot about Deadwood. I knew a lot of the history. I knew a lot of the contemporary. So up popped this idea. I was pregnant at the time and with my second child, and one of the big gold mine had just recently closed down for good, and it was really hurting the area financially. And I just thought, what would it be like to be a realtor as a single mom here trying to raise children in a town that's, the gold mine just shut down and all the houses are haunted, but I can't see ghosts. I'm not, I don't have that ability as this central, protagonist. So what would that be like? What would be some of her struggles? What would be some of the funny things that could happen due to the ghosts that others can see maybe, but she can't. So that was kind of how it all started out. And I wrote that first book and worked with an editor at one of the big New York publishing houses. They were very interested in it. And so made a few modifications as we went. And then I started writing book 2 while I waited for it to go up and get an actual contract. Well, it didn't make it. It came to the final acquisitions meeting and the marketing department came in and said they didn't think that it was a good enough, the area. It wasn't like LA or New York or something like that. It was a small town in the middle of America and it probably wouldn't sell very well. So they rejected it. And I was very heartbroken. I'd already written the second book, had it ready to go, and they shut it down. But in hindsight, I soon realized this is wonderful. This is good because now you have this really vetted product that an editor even helped me on. And we got it ready to go. And now this was 2010, 2011. It was like I can publish this, as a small press. I can go forth without the big publisher, and all these things are open to make this happen. So that was kind of how Deadwood went out. It had won 2 national awards. It was ready to go. And so we were like, let's just publish this and do it this way. And so it was, out into the world, then it went. And that's kind of the whole background of that first book. It was really a bumpy ride through it all, and then scary to go the route we were. It was relatively new to be, more of a small press, self-published, but it was wonderful. I mean, I just had so much support early on from friends, family, and then new readers as they came in. They just loved it. So that was how it all came to be. And it just kept growing. I thought maybe initially 3 books. And then I said, 10's a good number. And then I said, well, maybe 12. And now it's at 14. And I just keep saying, as long as the story keeps growing organically, which it does, it just keeps growing and changing in these wonderful, fun ways. And the readers keep liking it. And knock on wood, I don't have wood here, but knock on wood that it keeps getting better, and they keep thinking it's getting better. Then we just keep going. So
you've taken like all the history, the spooky stories, and then you created a character called Violet, who's basically living through those stories.
Yes. So imagine if you're this character and you can't see ghosts, but they're supposedly all around you, and other people can see them. And there's one standing right in front of you, and you'd be like, I can't see. So yes. And so the first few books, of course, are her. Does she even believe it? Her with her skepticism, you can't see it. Do I believe it? And so it just kept growing from there, and the paranormal world in this story kept growing and growing to where it was like, wow, this is so much fun. It's, I guess, supernatural is what they call it now. It's so much fun because it really took a mystery story and built it so much bigger, so much more fun. I'm getting hot. My heater just really kicked on it. So I got to shut my heat off in here. Woo! So that's why I'm getting redder and redder. Anyway, I'm going to start stripping down some clothing here, and we'll keep going.
So I believe in the supernatural.
Yes.
I may not be able to see ghosts, but I believe that we're surrounded by spirits, and there's good and there's bad. So, bit off topic here, but I can relate to this,
Right.
Like it's there.
I love it. And since Violet has come into my life and all these stories, and I've had so many people talking to me about their experiences, and then I've had some experiences as well that have happened, I now have a different outlook on it all. It's been so wonderful to get to hear readers' stories, experience things in Deadwood where it's supposed to be haunted, and then weird things happen. So it's wonderful. It's been such a wonderful thing in my life to have this whole series come about.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't have guessed that Deadwood is a real place. I would have never.
It's so much fun. Look it up online. Look up Deadwood, South Dakota online, and look at the old historic building. It's very the Old West is still there, and they have their Chamber of Commerce. They know that they're a special kind of historic city now, and they have all these tourist-based events, concerts. They've built a park where they do concerts in the middle of the town, and they'll shut down the streets, and you can bring and sit down and watch the concerts. It's really fun. They've really made a great example how to make your town a tourist destination, without being too, just kind of touristy stuff. But I really enjoy the variety they offer, and the fun things they do for such a small town. There's, as a friend of mine said, you can't throw a stick around Deadwood without hitting a concert or an event. It's just, there's so many things happening, and it makes it fun. Plus if there's gambling, if you like gambling, that town is allowed to have casinos. So that brings a lot of people in too. So as an author marketing a series set in this town, it's been wonderful because the town folk, I know them. My mom lived there for 30 plus years. I'm considered one of them, which I love and I'm so grateful for. And they help me sell books to people coming through.
Yeah. So is there like one story per a book, or does it break up?
So it's like a time. It is one story per book. When I write them, I plot a book from, all the plot points to the end, the elixir, and we're on to the next. And it is, you could read one, but it's not like an Agatha Christie where you have, the same character or the same detective in a whole different setting and there's nothing from the past. It's the same place. It's just like, okay, 2 weeks later, the next book starts. And here we go again. So you have all the characters running through it. A new character shows up in book 3 with these there through 4 and 5 and on. So it slowly builds. It starts with Violet and her children and her aunt and a couple other key characters. And then as we go, more characters come in. And eventually her crew, it's a crew of people working, fighting some supernatural evil stuff going on. Because what would we do without supernatural evil in books? It's the best, right? So, yeah, what's fun is if you read from start to finish, it's really only been about, I think, 7, 8 months since the story began in book 1. Even though it's been 10 years plus of me writing it, it's only been 8 months in Story World. So it just keeps building and you feel like you're in that time with them. You're going through this, and you're part of the group. You're one of them. And there's so much fun. The characters have just evolves so much. It's amazing. More than I ever thought. And it's fun for me as the writer, each book, to see where we go next, and how this goes.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my questions. Like when you write about Violet, like, are you Violet when you're writing? Are you
Kind
part of the
of.
character?
Because these books are all first person, so it's all I, and we are only ever get to be in Violet's head, right? So kind of I am her because, I use the pronoun I all the time, but yet
Yeah,
I'm not. I mean, she's a lot younger than me. We used to be about the same age, but I've aged and she hasn't. um,
yeah.
so I kind of, she shares my sense of humor. She shares a lot of my personality, but then again, I think each character comes from you and experiences you've had, in different ways you might want to be or you might not want to be. So she kind of is me, but she's more like a really close friend or sister, kind of more, I think, that I just know very well. And then the other characters are very near and dear to my heart too. They're family in that series. And I have this whole Jackrabbit Junction mystery series that takes place in Arizona desert, the desert down in the southeast part of the state. That is her Violet's neighbors growing up. So they know each other. So I will have characters go into Deadwood and then go back to the Jackrabbit series, or certain characters go to the Jackrabbit series and spend part of a book there and mix the worlds, which to me, I always love that in shows on TV, series where they cross over. And then I have the Dig Site series, which is behind me here. And that stars Quint Parker, who's Violet's brother. And there's supernatural there too. And they have a common background with some supernatural elements. So then you get to see him going off, and that's archaeology. They're down in Mexico on archaeology digs. So his abilities, the supernatural that goes with him is down in Mexico. And I get to be Indiana Jones mixed with, supernatural, wild, crazy stuff, which is wonderful. So it's really fun as this series developed and the others, how it's fun to cross them, over and have the ties and just enjoy the whole thing. Oh, and then of course the Deadwood Undertaker series that I write with my husband is the same exact world. It's Violet's world, only in the 1870s, back with the gold rush. And so we have some characters that are ghosts in Violet's world that are alive back then. So you get to see the living person, then the ghost, and there's supernatural characters, of course, that are in both because they don't age like humans, so they can be in both. So then it's a lot of fun that you get to go back in old time Deadwood and experience some of that, because my husband does tons of historical research on that area, on just the world in general. Like one element, he talks about the banana shipment of bananas up and how that was viewed back then, the bananas that so many of us just don't think twice about buying in the store, and how they were such a new thing and exciting. So we love to take the history, the real history, and blend it in with the fiction, and maybe teach you something about the area and the history in general going on, along with making it fun with fiction and supernatural and mystery.
Yeah, I love your strategy. It's like, the first couple books is like present, and then the storyline moves backwards.
Right.
So it starts at one place, but let's get a bit more history about why the present happened by going backwards.
And we had so many questions. By the time we started the historical series, I was working on book 9 of the contemporary Deadwood series, and I'd had so many questions about, why is it like this? What was happening here in the past? So that's what we thought, oh, this is a real good opportunity to go back in time and show this. And we chose a female undertaker because female undertakers were so rare at the time. That wasn't a normal career for a woman at all.
Yeah.
It was either teacher, maybe a nurse, but undertaker, no, that was not something a woman did. And to start with having this female undertaker in Deadwood, and she's part of the supernatural world, but she's come in and she's playing undertaker to learn the mystery of why people are dying a certain way. So it was really fun to kind of dig into that world and then research, what did undertakers have to deal with back then? So it's just been such an incredible thing to get to be a part of it. And that sounds crazy because I'm the author, but you start feeling like you're just a part of it all. And I often say, I'm just looking through the keyhole and watching what goes. And then I'm turning around and whispering to the reader, this is what's happening over there, and then I keep watching. And often I feel like that.
Yeah. Come to think about it, I don't think I've ever seen a female undertaker myself. Ever.
I was watching a historical documentary on the Old West, and it was all these undertakers and that. And I looked at my husband and I said, have you ever heard of a female undertaker? And he's like, no. So that was the birth of the Undertaker series that we write together. And it's so much fun. And the Undertaker we chose, Clementine, that's her. She's adopted the Clementine name, but she's Viking ancestry. So she's not like a timid little thing. She's like 6'1" and strong, and she fights in her supernatural kind of thing. She is a kind of a warrior of sorts. So she's not like just a little, petite woman coming and being in it. She's big and strong, and she's coming into the Old West wearing pants, and being an undertaker. So she's, fighting against a lot of what the norm was supposed to be. So it's so much fun. And the characters that we've developed in the Old West are just a blast. I always wanted to write an old Western. I loved Zane Grey and some of those early Westerns growing up. So it was like, oh, this is an opportunity to get to do that for once, and it's been with the help of my husband, which is key, because if you write historicals, you really need to have your facts as close to, because readers are so smart. And they will call you on something and go, no, you can't do that. No, that expression was not here till the 1940s, all that kind of stuff. So you got to know and put the time in.
Yeah. And I mean, those people that will correct you on those facts are not doing it for any other reason. But look, this is incorrect. I lived through that period.
Yes.
Now you're basically insulting me.
Yes. Do it right.
Yeah. Do it right and say it right. So what is like your long-term vision for the series? Where would you want to see it? Like, let's just say in the next 10 years.
Wow. I'm going to tell you something maybe, but it's going to change. That's what I've learned. Because like I said, I used to think it was going to be a 3-book series.
Yeah.
I see that I don't want to give away the plot lines and all that's going on, but there will be. I do have an overall series plot line that I'm working on. So, like, book 1 is the introduction. By about book 5, we're at the first turning point. So I'm kind of moving through an overall big series storyline, and I think I'm probably to about maybe the halfway point. That can change. I reserve the right
Yeah,
for another
yeah,
plot point, twist to come in. But I see this going as more and more. It's kind of like any big epic story is the protagonist against the evil world, and it's going to come to a battle, and it just keeps growing. But at this point, Violet is still learning so much about who she really is and her role in this world and what she has to do and how she has to protect her kids and why. And a lot of that, which is fun, is what drives her. She's like you and me. Well, maybe not you. You might be a superhero, but I'm a chicken. I don't want to go out in the dark and fight some evil supernatural thing. I just would rather stay inside, right? Well,
yeah,
she wants to stay inside too, but she has 2 children, and her success or failure affects their lives. So it pushes her to do things that she wouldn't normally do because it's the future of her children, right? Which is
yeah,
wonderful motivation for anybody that's a parent. Will know you will do stuff that you never expected to do because you want to protect this future generation. And so that's a lot of the basis, and it's we keep going. There's a lot to come, a lot that I don't even know, because so many things happen with each book that it's organically growing, so I can't tell you all that's coming next, but I do have some overall ideas. So that's really not an answer. It's just kind of me rambling about saying this thing is just growing, and I'm just telling you the story, and we'll see where it goes. But it does have, like I said, I have a series plot line that I'm keeping in mind.
yeah. I honestly feel it can become, an American franchise. Like you can actually pitch, to Netflix or whoever to turn this into a TV series one day. It has that sort of vibe, something I would actually watch,
Awesome.
you know?
Someday I have to learn. I've had that question by us, a lot of fans, a lot of, and one of the things you learn as an author is you need to learn some things about a particular segment of the industry before you just go run it in there, because
Yes.
you can really, there's the whole into intellectual property rights, your copyright. There's all kinds of stuff where you could step into quicksand and your story could blow up big, but you could lose all control and all rights and all kinds of stuff. And I've heard wonderful things about going and getting a series done, or a movie, and I've heard other authors say, learn the business, learn,
Yeah.
get an agent, get a trustful agent, someone with a good reputation, learn the business. Don't go in as a newbie. You can't stumble through this one because it could really blow up in your face. So that's one of my future to learns, is I'm going to dig into that more. I have some wonderful author friends who have, and I'm hoping that they'll, hold my hand along the way and be there to help, because they've gone through it. And a lot of this industry is like that, in my opinion. So many wonderful people that will reach out, take you by the hand and say, let me guide you through this so you don't do the pitfalls, and suffer what I did. Let me help you get through this. And then, in return, you do something back for them. Wonderful. So I think that's a really cool thing about not all writers, but a lot of writers, a lot of authors. And is it that way in the music industry?
Yeah, I mean the game is changing, we're moving away from competition to collaboration. There's more networking going on now.
I
So
love
that
that.
is happening.
Good.
And like I'm an advocate for it and I push for it. When you look at fellow independent artists or authors, any form of creator out there, don't look at them as competition. Look at
Right.
them as someone I can learn from, someone I can work with, and we can all grow together. And it's
Right.
changing. Gradually it's changing, it's growing, and people are actually developing that mentality.
That's good because, when I started, there were a couple authors that were brand new way back when. I'm talking late 1990s. They were newer authors coming in and they were excited. And some people were, kind of snippy. You're not doing it this right or that. But I always thought, don't do that. Keep it open because you never know where each of us, where we're going to end up. And there are several of those authors that went big, are big, New York Times, USA Today, they sell big and they're still, you just be careful. Don't treat anybody like, you're better than them or be rude because it's a small world, even though it's a big world, right? And you never know where there'll be times that I'll run into somebody again 20 years later. And it's a good thing we both, that we do like each other and we kept it on good terms because now we need to work together and we can make this thing, good. And that happens a lot in the writing world.
Let's win together.
Yes.
Let's win.
Well,
and I mean,
if you think about it as a musician, I can listen to your song, but it's going to take me 2-3 minutes. I can listen to your album and that might take, 30 minutes to an hour. But then what? Can you make another album in the next hour for me and get it out so that I can listen to more? No, I can go listen to someone else and then someone else, and I can come back when you get your next one out. And really that's writing. I mean, it takes me months to write a book. I can't keep you entertained full time, but I know a lot of other authors that are great friends and wonderful writers that all together you can take all of us and we're friends, and you can read us all. And so why not, go out to readers that way? Here's a group of us. We have similar humor or similar, genre. Read it all. So I really love that.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, nothing can be hidden any longer because all the information is online. So if you are one of those authors that feels, okay, I made it big, I'm not going to share, my strategies, my tactics, or empower and inspire other authors out there, we're just going to go online and we're going to research about it. And then what?
And then what? Yeah.
And then what? Which leads me, to this next question is your take on artificial intelligence into the future. Do you see it as something that's going to be beneficial to your career, or do you see it as a threat?
I don't know. To be honest, I've been asking that for the last, year plus. It makes me apprehensive in that if you use it to write books, you can put out books so fast. It's, authors can do that and just put out book after book after book, which is wonderful, except it does flood the market. And it makes it even harder for me, just coming from my point of view, it makes it harder for me to find new readers and reach new people because it's such a crowded marketplace already. So in that way, it's a little detrimental that it does offer speedier ways to write a book, because unless I jump on the bandwagon, I'm not going to write speedier books. And I probably won't, because I think I like to write the story and I like it to be my words. And I know some authors will say, well, just use it to help brainstorm what could come next. Well, one of the favorite things I enjoy, one of the things, not favorite, my favorite, I like when I come to a place and it's like nothing I'm trying to write is working. And I know it's because there's something else that needs to happen at this point. And so for a day or so, I will just go rake the yard, go sweep the porch, go do stuff, thinking it. And then when that idea finally comes, it's like, oh, this is so wonderful. This is going to be so good. I love that. And so I don't want to use something else to spur those ideas. I like the process of writing. Marketing wise, I'm using it a little. I'm going to probably continue using it because 50-60% of our time as authors is now marketing. If you want to be successful, you have to put the work in. And I didn't grow up speaking marketing. I was a tech writer, very different types of writing, right? And a fiction writer. So writing copy is not easy for me. It's not my favorite thing. And I have seen some examples of different things I've been doing where AI will pop up. Here's some, based off what you said, you could change it to this, and we think it would sell better. And this just happened last week, and I looked at it and I read it and I was like, oh, that makes me mad. It's so good. Why is it so good? It's not fair. I want mine to be better. But it was really good what the AI threw out based off my words, granted. So I started it. It changed it. So then I said, okay, I'm going to take what your words are and I'm going to change it some more. And it's back to me. It's my turn now. So that made me feel a little better about there's AI. But I think ad-wise, with what we have to do as authors to try to keep up with the marketing, it's sure handy to have something, you putting in all the parts you want, mentioned, and then having something like a little copyright person sitting next to you, a little copyright gnome spitting out the word, or that's very helpful. And I could see using that in the future just so that I can put more time into writing books, instead of doing marketing.
Yeah. It's like what you said about the raking. It's so fascinating as creators. When we're doing nothing, that's when our best ideas actually come to light. So
yes.
true.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting in front of your laptop and you're thinking, okay, what can I do next? All you need to do is just put that laptop off and go do something that's not linked to your work. And it's going to come.
Yes.
It is going to come.
And that is the best part. One of the best feelings with being a creative person, and then being able to take that idea, and whether it's music or writing or movies, whatever, and being able to bring it to life and seeing what it looks like or sounds like or what, it's just such a wonderful feeling, of joy and excitement. And then you put it out into the world as you cringe. Here you guys go. I hope some of you like it and not everybody throws tomatoes at me,
Yeah. But I mean, this is also, why it's so important as an author in this day and age to create a community.
Yes.
It's so important because if you have a community, as you were talking about, the market is getting flooded because there's AI tools where I can push out a brand new ebook in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I just got to give it a prompt and I got an ebook. I can upload it on Amazon. It's for sale. So important to focus on building communities, because even if you have 50 people in your community, they're part of your Facebook group, and you just, focusing on these 50 people, you're not too concerned about growing, to 100 people, but let me rather change my mindset and focus on the 50 people because they are going to continuously buy my book, or maybe I'm going to create physical characters. They're going to purchase that,
right.
And that's going to sustain it. So build communities. Another author said that he had to drop the price of his book on Amazon because it was getting so flooded. But he says by dropping it, because he had a great community, he's still making good sales.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes, more is not the solution,
Right. And so when I started, the average ebook, we put it out there for like $3.99, a new one $4.99, somewhere like that, way back in 2011. And then came the 99 cents runs when everybody went 99 cents for everything, and it was the big new price. And then came free, put as much as you can free, and then it went back to 99, and then it's gone back up now to $6.99, $7.99, because the big publishers are asking $12.99 for an ebook, so putting it up further and growing up. And I'm curious to see if it's going to drop down again now, if we're going to go back down. It's just been interesting to watch as I've watched this, and so I'm here to see what happens. I did just put the Dig Site series, the 2, behind me into Kindle Unlimited. The rest are wide as ebooks. But I did try. I have it in Kindle Unlimited for probably 6 years, 7 years, just been wide. So I thought, well, let's try over there. And it's like a big pond full of fish, or a big, a sea, I guess, for Amazon. And if you overfish it, well, that's what happens. But if you go away and then come back, a lot of times it will have refreshed and you have new readers that are looking for something different, and you can fulfill that. So there's the price game, there's the where to put it, wide or KU. There's just so much stuff out there.
Yeah, so much to consider.
When you're an entrepreneur for music or books, you wear so many hats, and it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's really amazing other times. And some days I just say, I think I'm going to go. I used to work fast food when I was in high school. I worked at a fast food restaurant. And I often say, I think I'm just going to go work the drive up window, again. And that seems easier at this point.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
other
yeah.
days I'm like, let's go get him. Let's tackle it all. So
The
it's,
main part is to enjoy the process, as a
right,
creative. Just
right.
enjoy it. The good, the bad, the challenges. Enjoy it all.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
main thing. Have that vision, have that main goal, but enjoy the process, and keep learning,
right,
keep evolving. And if you feel
right.
like you burn out, take some time out for yourself.
Yes.
Relax. It's okay. It's a flooded market, but chill. You'll get there.
You can still make waves. You can still find new readers. There's ways. You just have to think differently sometimes than the rest of the people out there, and do something different and innovative. And that's when you see somebody go big out of the blue. It's because they tried something different and innovative and it worked.
Yeah.
And it won't always, but sometimes it really works. And that's kind of the fun thing. And overall, I have my mother-in-law's a little bit older. We've talked a lot lately about purpose. What's your purpose? If you lose a purpose in life, if you feel like you have no purpose anymore, how do you keep going? And it's really made me think about this, writing business in the purpose mentality more, and how wonderful it is to have this purpose, whatever your reason is for being, in the music industry or the books. I mean, my purpose from the beginning has been to make people smile and laugh. And
Yeah. Yeah.
when it's hailing and storming in the real world, to escape over here and laugh along with Violet as she stumbles through some crazy stuff going on, and yet picks herself up, dusts herself off, and keeps going. And I wanted to put that out into the world as a positive thing, you know. And I love when I receive emails from readers who said, such and such was happening. I was at the hospital, or my spouse or parent, and you kept me laughing through it all, through the tears. And that's the biggest compliment
Yeah.
I can get, because that's my purpose here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not even like, your purpose in the music industry or in the writing industry is also great, but what's your purpose here on earth?
Mm,
Why are you here? What are you
right,
doing here?
right. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah,
Yeah. What's up? Are you just here to survive? Are you living? So
right,
find that. True.
right.
Well, I mean, this has been a really insightful conversation. You've made me smile, more than once for
Good,
this conversation, so that also
good.
counts. Add that to the list for today.
Yes, good. That's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
As long as we're
Yeah.
laughing, then it's all, we can keep going. I love
Yeah.
that.
That's it. That's it. So where can you have a lot of social media platforms, like you are everywhere. So, but you can mention it. I'll also include it in the description. Where can people find you online?
So, one of the easiest places to start is my website, www.anncharles.com. And it's just ANN. There's no E there. So, Ann Charles. And if you go there, you can see the books. You can go to my contact page, and it lists all the different social media platforms I'm on. And some I'm on, and there's just a picture and a few things, and others I'm active. There's just so many that I have to, figure out what works for me, and
Yeah, yeah,
where I can spend my time, and where I shouldn't be spending time, because of, but anyway, so that's the easiest way to find me. But do look for Ann Charles Author. There are other Ann Charles. There's a wonderful photographer that has the same name, and different people. So just look for the author part, or Ann at W Charles, something like that. So you can find me all over the place. And there's audio books of everything. There's ebooks, there's print books. You can order from my store. If you're international, it's probably better you order through like Amazon or something like that, because they'll be cheaper than working with me. But if you want an autograph, I do ship internationally. I will do it and autograph it, and we'll ship out. So I'm just all over, and I keep working even harder to be even more all over. So I'm always trying to spread further. It's like a bad, I joke, it's like a bad disease. It just keeps
yeah,
trickling out there further, right?
yeah.
So I'm
And we don't
out
know
there.
whether it's a good or bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, just like how we started off the conversation today, find out where you belong, what works for you, and go with that. You know,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
be everywhere,
And
but find out what works for you. What's going to sell your brand?
enjoy the journey. I mean, the pitfalls, the times you fall down, the time, you got back up. Some of my biggest laughs are my screw ups in this business. And oh, what was I
Yeah, yeah.
thinking? I once drank too much and I ordered promotional material, magnets, and they were spelled wrong. The grammar was wrong. And the next morning when I was sober and I woke up and looked at it, I was like, oh, and I ordered like 150 of those. And so instead of trying to cancel it, I just told everybody on social media what I'd done. And everybody wanted a drunken magnet. And they were just so excited. So those things went like hotcakes because I screwed up. And it was like, I'm human, just like you. And it was really,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really fun. So
Exactly. We're
enjoyed
just
that.
human, you know?
Yeah,
We also make mistakes. It's like that.
exactly. Yeah.
But Anne, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and I wish you all the best for the Deadwood series. I wish Violet all the best for her next adventures.
Thank you so much. And keep manifesting that it someday makes it onto the, small screen, at least as a
Yeah, yeah,
Netflix. That's
definitely. I
awesome.
want to watch it. I want to watch it on Netflix.
All
You
right.
know.
Well, when that happens, we'll toast to each other,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you want.
We'll have another chat again when that
Yes.
happens.
Yes,
You know.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. And
Thank
have
you
an
very
awesome
much
week
for
ahead.
thanks for
All
having me
right.
on. It's been an honor. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.